Welcome to the Hashtag Random Network. I'm your host, Kyle. Today we are doing a movie review. Today's movie that we are reviewing is In a Violent Nature. This is a new slasher film directed by Chris Nash. Who is Chris Nash? Who knows? He hasn't made much shit. But he has worked in some things. I looked him up on IMDb. He worked in the movie The Void. If you don't know the movie The Void, it's a pretty good body horror film, sci-fi film that used to be always on Netflix. Don't know if it is now. Don't worry about it, because that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about In a Violent Nature. I've been very intrigued by this movie. What really intrigued me was a lot of the reactions to a particular scene that's in the movie that was going all around TikTok and YouTube. This reaction to this yoga death scene, and they didn't show it, but they had the noises of it, and how it sounded was very visceral and nasty and disgusting. And everybody was giving these gut-wrenching reactions that was just like, oh. To me, I was like, okay, these type of reactions, I was very intrigued already just from the trailer alone. And now you're giving these type of crazy reactions to these kills, and these kills do sound disgusting. And I'm not talking about them describing it. I'm talking about the actual sound, the sound effects. It was a lot of ripping and tearing and just nastiness. So I was like, let me go see this for myself to see if this scene lives up to the hype that everybody's been sort of promoting it to be. Personally, to me, I don't think the scene lived up to the hype. It lived up to the hype, but it didn't live up to this gut-wrenching, visceral type of reactionary that I believe people was giving, mostly because of how the scene plays. When I was listening to it and I was watching these reactions and I was hearing the way it sounded a lot more visceral and a lot more tension filled with the ripping and the tearing of the body parts. But when you actually watch the actual scene in the movie, the scene is a lot more goofy than it is like scary or disturbing, because of just how so over the top it is filmed. You can't really take it seriously. And the more and more the movie went on, I started to ask myself, should I be taking this movie seriously? Is this a serious movie? Is this an actual like horror, scary, slow burn film? Or is this a lot more funny and comedic? I wasn't really sure. That comes down to the overall problem of this movie, because of how it is put together, the pacing of it, how it's told. It's told with very bad actors, very bad dialogue. And to a certain extent, you could kind of, in your mind, if you're a fan of horror movies, especially the type of horror movies that this movie is paying homage to, you can sort of, in your head, can go, oh no, this is all intentional. They're purposely making the dialogue bad and the acting bad, because it's kind of like the 80s movies that it's sort of taking from. But then the more you watch it, I'm like, is this a parody? Because this is so much a Jason slasher film. This is a Friday the 13th film. It can paint itself as a violent nature, but this killer is Jason. Even the way its backstory is set up, how it comes out, where it comes from is Jason-esque. It's a Jason film. Technically, they can't make a Jason film. They don't have the rights to it. So I understand that they won't call it Friday the 13th or any sort of Jason type film. When it starts diving deep into the backstory of our violent nature of this killer, the more and more it goes deeper, the more you're like, this is Jason. This is Friday the 13th. I know it is. I've watched them. This is Friday the 13th. Another big portion of this movie, especially with the pacing, is the fact that it is just a guy walking in the woods. I'm sorry. That is what it is. I can't tell that is what is happening. It's no soundtrack. There's nothing else going on. There are very violent kills that are entertaining and exciting when they do happen. But this movie is an hour and 34 minutes. And for a good, I would say, 50-ish to 45 minutes of the runtime, it is a man walking in the woods. Now, at first, it can be very tension feeling, but the entire movie isn't a very tension filled movie. Like I said, after the first kill or so, the movie becomes comedic, especially when they introduce our main campers that we are going to be killing for the duration of the film. The movie becomes extremely comedic. How they kill people, how the kills are set up, how our killer, Johnny is his name is even Johnny, becomes so dragged out, so insane, and so unserious that you're just sitting there going, this, you're not doing this to scare me. You're doing this out of comedic effect. Are we supposed to laugh? I'm not sure. And then I started being like, oh, okay, him walking in the woods is also the joke, right? But you're not sure, because at first it does start it at first when he starts walking, it does cause some tension. That first kill is very tension filled. When he's walking, when he just wakes up from his slumber, it is very scary. It's very tension filled. I'm feeling my balls are tightening. The way he lingers in the woods, in the way they're shooting it, it is very beautiful and very intentional. But after a while, a man walking in the woods is just a man walking in the woods. Since it is from his POV, it starts to just get kind of boring, and it starts to get sort of overly drawn out to the point where you start laughing because, like I said, these kills aren't gut-wrenching. These kills aren't scary. They're just funny because they're so over the top and crazy and bloody and insane, and they do a good job. The special effects on the death scenes are put together. Like, you can tell that they're dummies and that they're puppets, but it's okay. The death scene of the girl, the yoga death scene, is so goofy and it's so crazy. The scene with a yoga girl, this is how goofy it is and how much I'm just sitting here like, oh, this is funny. This isn't really like disturbing or fucked up. It's funny because first he just stabs her and stabs right through her gut, right? Like, hand, arm literally comes from her back out of her stomach. And when that happens, you're like, ooh, damn, that's crazy. He puts this hook through her head, and then he pulls her in half and pushes her head out of the back of her back and rips her in half, sorta. But the way he puts her, but at one point he puts her foot on her and pushes and uses her body as a leverage to push her head out. And I'm just like, that body would have fell over. There's nothing there to keep it up. Unless this lady just became a wood, a tree, a walking woman tree, she would have fell over 10 times over by now. Like I said, how it is put together is so funny. And then how the scene ends, because he just kind of tosses her body off the side of the cliff and it just rolls to the middle of it. And I'm like, okay, this is comedic. And that's not the first comedic thing that they do with a dead body. It's the first comedic thing they do with a dead body is they literally use a dead body. He picks up the dead body of somebody and tosses it into like some glass to get his mask and his killing tools for the rest of the movie. And when he does it, it's super funny. You're like, okay, this is comedic. This is funny. This is meant to be funny. I'm having a fun time. This is meant to be funny. But then after that happens, it's back to just walking in the woods. And after these funny, comedic, crazy moments happen, like I said, that's just what happens. It goes back to niggas just walking in the woods. He's pretty much going on this violent kill streak because of his mother's locket. A lot of the actors aren't very good here. The way they're telling and exposing isn't very good. A lot of the dialogue isn't very good. A lot of the jokes isn't very good. These are very thin, dry wall characters that are easily poked through, figuratively and literally, while you're watching this movie. This movie just felt like it was a movie trying to make a movie with dead meat in mind. Like, that yoga scene is definitely when this movie comes to home theater and Shudder. I mean, Dead Meat literally works with Shudder, so when this movie comes to Shudder and Dead Meat starts doing their kill count for it, that yoga mat scene is definitely the golden chainsaw. The drowning scene will probably get dull as blade. Like, and that's what this movie just felt like. It just felt like I'm making a movie with a nigga walking for 50 minutes and some insane kills for because I want to make a movie that goes on dead meat, and it is going to be great on dead meat. So the deaths in this movie is worth seeing for yourself. Very fun to watch. It's walking, man. It's walking for 50 minutes. No matter how much, no matter how well they try to film it, and it does look great. The cinematography here is great. At some point, it's just a man walking. That middle portion is so comedic in that when the end of the movie comes around, they try to revert back to like this serious type way of storytelling, and the filmmaking becomes a lot more serious, and then they have this very pretentious dialogue scene that is going over the Johnny in the nature of what everything we saw, and you just like, this isn't really worth it. um you should have done this a lot sooner, because this tension is good, but like, bro, like, I don't know this girl. We don't have a really connection to her, because out of this hour and 34 minutes, because it is in the eyes, in the perspective of our killer, we don't spend much time with these characters. So when they start doing erratic stuff, you kind of just like, I don't know what's really happening. I don't know what's going on. It just seems like they're being dumb. So you don't really care about if they die. You technically are just waiting for people to die at some point, because there's just nothing going on here. It's just a girl. She's the final girl, and she's pretty, and she's nice, and she survives, but I don't care if she does or doesn't, because I don't really know what she's about. But like I said, it goes back to comedic spot, because one of the guys do the 80s horror slasher movie thing where he tries to distract the killer, and he goes, "Hey, ugly son of a bitch, look here," and he just turns around and axes him in the face, and he just repeatedly just mauls him with the axe for like an hour, and just how long he's just sitting there doing it. It's another comedic moment in the movie, because the killer's just sitting there hacking at the face of this guy he just axed, just going in, da, 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 and she just takes off the necklace that he was after, which I was like, just take it off. The moment the sheriff guy told you that he wants the necklace, just take off the goddamn necklace, throw it, and run. As far as way as you can. He even had a car. Take the fucking car. Just throw the necklace down, take the car, and drive away. And never look back. I personally didn't understand it. If that was what he was always just truly looking for, hey, take off the goddamn necklace, throw it, run away. But whatever. We ball. We get killed. All in all, this movie is pretty fun if you just like, just go with it. If you just go with the walking. You'll thoroughly get entertained by the killing. But like I said, a big portion of this movie is just walking, and a lot of times the scenes where he do interact and kill people, or a lot of the killings are very drawn out. Now, I would definitely not say pay top dollar for it, but like if it's, if you get like a ticket sale, if you get like a sale or something to go see it, I would say go see it, or like on a Tuesday or a matinee day when the tickets are low. I would say go see it, grab some friends, go watch some people get brutally murdered, or just wait for it to come on Shudder. I think it would be probably a lot more entertaining and a lot more worth it on Shudder, because you can watch your phone, go on TikTok and do some other shit while he's just walking in the woods during those times when he's just walking in the woods. But yeah, it's okay. It's an okay film. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. I enjoyed it. I'll watch it again. I'll watch the death scenes again. I'm not watching a nigga walk in the woods for 50 minutes again. That's not happening.